Hi, hello. Thank you for joining me, Jeani, here at the ACC Community Room for 2 p.m. Gentle Yoga. I have different camera angles. I'm not sure where I need to look, but just to let you know, today's class is going to be just a continuation of the hips. We did a little bit of that last week, but we're going to continue forward with that. The weather has been really dry, windy. I really suggest having some water nearby, trying to stay as hydrated as possible. If you don't know, I am going through my menopausal year. I have issues of arthritis and a lot of things I'm learning. I'm also documenting on my YouTube channel, so check that out if you get a chance. But all of these things like water, sleep, your nutrition, these are all issues of aging, factors that can affect the issues of aging. So keeping water nearby, trying to get some stretching in like our yoga class, all these good things will just help us as we're aging along. So that being said, come on down to the back of the mat. We're going to start as we usually do. Have your favorite props around you, the blocks, straps, any pillows that you might like. We're just going through a similar class as last week, so we'll go ahead and start keeping our water nearby. Just arriving, and not changing the quality of your breath, but just giving yourself some space to figure out how you're feeling. So as we just quiet down, noticing how the mat feels under the feet, how our legs are supporting the body, your back, your hands, just noticing how we're arriving. And after a few breaths, we'll find our breath has just quieted down, and we'll start cultivating our Ujjayi breath. Let's go ahead and bring our left hand to rest on the heart, right hand under the belly button. With your next inhale, start to slowly feel the air entering the nose. Notice how it feels in the body. Maybe the chest lifts, ribs expand, legs lengthen. And as we start the slow exhale, feel too how that translates in the body. At the bottom of the exhale, go ahead and press in the belly hand, help to expel the air. Engage the core. A few more breaths in. And we can start to bring the sound of the ocean to the back of the throat. And as you're connected to that more relaxed ocean breath, we'll start moving through the practice. Bringing the hands down to the side, lifting the feet if you need, resetting our mountain once more. Let's inhale, draw energy from the legs. You can keep a bend to the knees, but imagine returning to mountain a little longer and taller. With the exhale, we start to feel that energy releasing back towards the feet, reverse direction to the earth. And then inhaling once more, we start to tip forward towards the toes, feeling the gravity shifting towards the toes until that edge is identified. Then we can slowly start shifting the weight towards the heels until that edge, that tipping point, is identified. And giving ourselves a couple more breaths to give that top to bottom, toe to heel mapping at our foundation. We'll return to our mountain, reset once more, and lifting maybe a little longer and taller in our mountain. Energized upwards, exhale, bring the weight towards the outer right edge of your feet, to that edge, and then we can inhale all the way back up to center, exhale to the other side, and giving yourself a few breath cycles to just find that horizontal mapping. Continue left to right, and then meet back at center. Dropping back into our mountain, resetting with the inhale, feeling energized upwards. Let's start making small circles in one direction at about the ankles. We're radiating outward with larger circles, finding that perimeter edge, and then tightening in the circles once that's found. Getting a little lubrication in the ankles and finding how our focus and balance feels at the base. We'll go ahead and inhale. Reset the mountain once more, and one more time, but in an opposite direction. We're moving outward from the ankles towards the perimeter of the feet in an opposite direction. Notice how the shift of balance changes. And when that is identified, go ahead and tighten in the circles, meeting back at center. Setting back in. Reset the mountain once more. Lift the feet entirely if you need to, one at a time. We'll go ahead and start making movement a little more purposeful, just starting to sway, turning from side to side, lifting the toes. The heel is pivoting as we turn when we start bringing more of the body towards that side. You don't want to torque the knee by keeping the feet glued to the mat. And as we find some momentum, loosening the tightness in our shoulders, our ankles, our hips, we can slowly decrease the momentum and return to mountain. Coming all the way back once more. A little longer, a little taller in our mountain as we reset. Palms facing forward, shoulders lifting on the inhale. Exhale, roll them back and down. A total of 4 breath cycles here to find how our shoulders are feeling as we warm up the shoulder girdle using that Ujjayi breath, helping to facilitate the release. Go ahead and reset once more. A second round. Inhaling, up go the shoulders, and forward on the exhale this time. Total of 4 breath cycles to help roll out any tension from the night before, hopefully, at least to bring your attention to any stiffness or tightness. Let's go ahead and reset the mountain once more. After you're done, we'll move to the throat, the neck, the face. So resetting once more, feel that string at the crown of the head lifting. You may even feel that inner rotation of the heel so that you have a good even distribution of weight on all points of the soles of the feet. Inhaling, we're just lifting from the crown of the head. Exhaling, letting the right ear drop towards the right shoulder. Lots of space there still though. So when you inhale, feel that length. And then exhale, feel the release as you turn the gaze, if you have not already. Recall the Ujjayi breath. See if you can find release from the eyes all the way to the base of the neck, while the body is upright and stable. Shoulders in line with one another, hips in line with one another, ankles in line with one another. And after your very last exhale, go ahead and bring the eyes, the gaze, the head completely back up. Exhale, let the left ear float towards the left shoulder. Inhaling to feel the lift. Exhaling to turn the gaze. Using the next 3 breath cycles, see if you can find a similar release on the right side of the neck. And keeping both heels planted, the feet, the hips evenly supporting and the shoulders in line. One last exhale. And then we can inhale to gaze. The crown of the head lifting at the top of the inhale. So all we have to do is exhale and let the eyes float towards the top of the mat. 4 more breath cycles here, finding each inhale a lifting with a slight tilt at the top of the head, and an exhale, a rooting of the mountain, more stable, a little taller, a little stronger, rooting in the foundation, strong at the base. After that last exhale, go ahead and bring the eyes back up with the inhale towards the midline, past the midline, towards the ceiling, and stop there, not craning the neck. Hopefully using breath cycles here to find release in the throat, the tongue, even the mouth. And after the very last exhale, go ahead and bring the eyes back to center. And shake out any residual activation of muscles. That could be gripped feet, toes. That could be a still active leg, glute, even the lower back. So just give yourself any jiggling, anything that helps you just to release. Then we'll start with our sun salutation, starting with our folds. Feeling the fingers reaching downward. Energize the arms upwards with the inhale. Exhale, engage the core, bend the knees slightly if you need, but float downward. Walk the hands halfway down if you need, and just let the back release with the first fold of your practice. Notice if your feet are rolling outwards. See if you can bring even distribution of weight at the feet. Notice if you're tipping towards the toes. Bring more weight towards the heels, closer to the top of the ankles. Bend a knee, alternately bend the other knee. See if that helps you to release any tightness in the back of the neck, back of the legs. And if your neck is feeling tight, see if you're holding on to the weight of your head. Gently bobble the head left to right, forward and back. Just let it dangle like a plumb line. And if your arms are nice and released, hopefully they're just hanging somewhere down below you like wet noodles. And if you're holding on to your forearms are on the thighs, that's fine too. But in the next inhale, we're going to slowly start to roll up. You can help roll up by just walking the hands up wherever your contact is. And as you start to unfurl the spine, stacking one vertebra on top of the other, head the last to stack. And give yourself a breath or two here. The blood is rushing back to the head. And then we'll go ahead and begin our walking meditation. Standing, inhaling, bringing the hands to heart center. Lift the right foot and step the right foot down. Inhale, left foot up. Exhale, left foot down. We'll make our way to the top of the mat. One full breath cycle per step. And at the top of the mat, looking down at the fingertips, press into the palms. Inhale, watch the fingertips rise. Separate the palms at the top. Exhale, hinge at the hips and fold. Bend the knees if you need. We're still kind of early here, so it can be a pretty good bend. But at our second fold here, give yourself another 3 breath cycles, just a little lengthier time before we move into the full modified sun salutations, but giving yourself just a little bit of time here. And then we're going to press into that point of contact with your hands. Maybe it's the mat, maybe it's your feet, shins, maybe forearms to the thighs. Lengthen through the back with that inhale. And then exhale back towards the feet. And then we're going to place the hands at either side of the feet, bending the knees. Walk the feet maybe a few steps back. Inhaling, the shoulders come over the wrists. and bring the knees down, untuck the toes, and check out the modified high plank. See if you're a little forward past the wrists. I feel I am. So you can lift up the knees and walk the feet just a little bit back. You can also bring the hands a little forward if you need. Try to use your shins and the tops of the feet to support the body weight at the bottom, while the shoulders and the arms are supporting the upper body. We'll go ahead and inhale. Tuck the toes, lift the hips. Exhale, press into your extended arms to help bring the hips back towards your first down dog. So keeping the knees really bent is good for tightness in the legs as you're working towards lengthening, releasing, and making the backs of the legs just a little more comfortable. You can keep the heels lifted. They don't need to meet the mat, but we're working toward bringing the heels closer with each practice, hopefully. Sorry, I had a really nice thigh there. So as we're in our down dog, it's our first extended one, but we're here for about 5 breath cycles, keeping the hands and the feet moving downward with our energy and the hips moving upward. With the next inhale, go ahead and roll the eyes towards the hands, bend the knees if your legs are tight, and we're going to walk the hands to the back of the mat, exhaling fully here at the back of our fold. Inhale, lengthen for a half lift. Exhale, release the chest and the arms towards the mat for the next fold. Fully exhaled here, we can walk our hands up, or we can inhale, lengthen through the back, and come all the way back up with a straight back. Arms above, exhale, hands down heart center. Our second modified walking meditation. Inhale, right foot up, exhale it down. Inhale, left foot up, exhale it down. And as we're making our way to the top of the mat, one step at a time, we'll meet at the top of the mat, looking down at the fingertips. Inhale, press through the palms. Exhale, separate palms and hinge at the hips. Fold once more. Fully exhaled here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, plant the hands and step a long right leg and long left leg. Maybe a couple steps. And we're coming into our long high plank. So keeping that energy, it's only about 3 breath cycles here, but keeping the energy from the heels all the way to the toes. To the top of the head, and then the shoulders all the way down to the wrists. So again, 2 different types of direction of the energy. Go ahead and inhale, lift the hips. Exhale, press back into our down dog. And our second down dog is a little briefer. So go ahead and give yourself any movement that feels good here. Maybe cycling out the legs a little bit. Reestablishing the connection between the hands, feet, and the hips. And then with the next inhale, roll the eyes towards the hands, bend the knees if you need. Exhale, fold, walking the hands to the back of the mat. Fully exhaled here, inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. And then inhale, come up, slow roll up, or with a strong straight back. Exhaling, hands down heart center. Okay. And giving yourself a chance to drink a little bit of water right now is a good time, or making our way down to a, before we make our way down to the mat, we're making our way to our balance pose. And that, like last week, it's a wide-legged forward fold. You may need blocks to help you meet the mat. You can keep a good deep bend to the knees if you need. And we will be transitioning from that forward fold when we're down here to walking a little bit to the left, and then walking to the midline and walking a little bit to the right. So if you need these blocks, it'll really help you meet the mat. And you don't have to have a big wide stance between the feet. Most of us have about 2 to 3 feet distance between our legs, but if you have tightness in the hips, you may have only 1 foot. You may only have 6 inches. So just do the best. What you should be feeling is some kind of, when we're standing in our mountain, hips distance apart, just a little wider than our hips. So start with that. If that feels okay in the hips, then you can just inch your way out a little more. You don't want to feel this hyperextension of your legs. It doesn't need to be super wide, just enough that it's a little wider than the hips distance. And then keeping the heels kind of pivoted inward and the toes a little pivoted outwards. That'll help you as we're doing our fold. So coming into this portion right here, if you have your stance there, you may want to decide whether to keep the blocks in your hands or to place them strategically in front of you where you can land there as we're folding forward. So I'll just start with them in my hands. In our second set, I'll start with them on the floor. So here we are, taking a nice deep breath. Have a gentle tuck of the tailbone under, so you kind of feel like your hips are just slightly, moving forward. We don't want to have our tailbone sticking outward, and that causes our chest to pitch forward. So inhaling nice and tall, exhaling, start to engage the core, feel that nice even distribution and support of the feet, bend the knees if you need, and start to fold forward. You can walk the blocks if they're in your hands a little bit down the legs, and then you can start to bring those blocks forward. Notice where where it feels comfortable. We want to keep the hips in that same line as the heels. And I'm going to just turn to the sides so you can give yourself a visual of if you're pitched a little too far forward, we want to make sure we've got our hips in line with the heels, more around here. So as we get a little closer with our forward fold, and it depends on our practice, so some of us might be here, some of us might be up here, and we're trying to not put weight onto the neck. So if you are a little higher in your forward fold here, just make sure you're not looking way up. You want to look straight down so it keeps the neck from working to support the head. So as we're here, and I'm going to turn around once more in our wide-legged stance. Promised you we'd be walking a little bit. So here we are in our mid area. We're going to inhale here. Feel like you have that nice deep connection to the mat. More of the weight, again, is towards the heels and the hips being above the heel line. And you could just move the blocks just slightly to the left towards the feet. You may find you have a certain edge that you stop at, and that's good. And then you can just give yourself a little bit of time to play with that edge. Folding a little further forward, you'll find release on that side that's opposite. The side of your body extends as you go to the opposite side. Take another deep inhale here. Keep a bend to the knee if you need. Notice how it's feeling in the ankles. Nice and long here. And then we're going to exhale. Come back to center. Inhale, nice and long spine here. Keep the knee slightly bent if you need, and just start to walk the blocks a little bit towards the right. Feel that extension along the opposite side of your body from that side that you're turning. You can play with it, folding a little more, bringing the length to that side of the rib cage, reaching with these blocks. And when you're done exhaling next, inhale, lengthen, and exhale, walk back towards the center. And then we're going to go ahead and bring the heels in a little bit, bring the toes in a little bit, back to our hips distance position. Walk the blocks close to the feet. And you can bring your hands to your thighs and slowly roll all the way back up. Go ahead and bend the knee, give yourself a nice little bounce. And we're going to do that one more time. And this time, finding that fold and that stability with the hips, you can try without the blocks or keep the blocks in that strategic area where you know you'll be folding and they'll be right there that you can reach out towards. If you're not using the blocks, it'll just be like a forward fold in a wide stance then. So once more, a little wider than our hips, we pivot out the toes, pivot in the heels just slightly. Feel as if you're lengthening through the legs, gentle tuck under of the tailbone, feeling the hips right over the backs of the heels. You can bring your hands to the hip bones here if you're not holding blocks. Inhale, engage the core, feel nice and strong. And exhale, hinging at the hips, just start to fold at the hips. You can keep the bend to the knees. You don't need to have completely straight legs. We don't want to hyperextend our knees. And in our second fold in our wide-legged stance, we may find ourselves a little further forward. You can adjust the stance if you need. You can pivot out the toes a little bit more. You can just feel how that is here. Maybe you're still using your blocks. That's great. You can bend your elbows, get just a little more release if you need by just playing with the support at your hands. You can just use gravity to help you kind of release like we usually do in our ragdoll fold during warm-up. Give yourself an inhale, engage through the legs. Make sure you have that nice support from the hips to the heels. Get a hold of your blocks if you need. And we will prepare to get nice and long. Inhaling into a half lift kind of area here. And then exhale, we're just going to walk the hands to the left side. Keeping our right hip, right heel in our place. We just stop with the left side stretch when we find that natural boundary. So whether you're with the blocks, make sure we're not hyperextending those knees. Keep a bend to the knees. Keeping the torso nice and long or extending it even by reaching. One more deep inhale, one more deep exhale. Engage the core. And then we're going to walk the hands with or without the blocks to the midline, returning to center. We'll go ahead and inhale once more, nice and long. Keep the bend to the knees if you need. Readjust the feet if you need to. Keeping that nice long back, we're just going to walk. May not be very far at all, towards the right side. And we're finding that nice stretch to the left. And maybe it's a little deeper this time. Keeping the bend to the knees is okay. Making sure you're not holding on to your head. See if you can relax that. And also, if you find yourself pitching forward, bring that weight to the back towards the heels. Take one more inhale and exhale. Let's go ahead and walk back to center. Go ahead and bring the toes a little closer. Heel to toe alignment, and then bring the heels in. We're going to bring the toes a little closer, and again, we start to bring the hips down, and we can come down to our squat. Now, I'm going to just turn to the side. If you find you're high up, we're just working with what you've got. You might have to put a block underneath the heels to help. You may just feel that this is a good squat. That's good too. Keep your squat where you're just stretching through your calves, your hamstrings, your glutes, and then we can bring our knees down and untuck the toes. Coming into our hero and bringing the blocks off to the side. And here in our hero, our hips are on the heels or on a block. Our hands can help us with the supporting the weight of the upper body. Or if we have it in our practice, we can sit upright and take the next 2 to 3 breaths in our hero with relaxed shoulders, letting the hands be supported at the lap, at the side. And after your last breath cycle there, we'll go ahead and bring the hands back to the mat on either side of our legs and start to lift up the hips, walking the hands forward. And we are moving into a position we'll meet in staff. So just coming onto your bottom, you can just bring the feet together and kind of just roll the hips down. You can, if you have a different way of sitting down on your bottom, feel free to do that. But sometimes just from that squatting position, going into a hero, and then just letting my hips move to the side. And sitting upright, you might need to move the flesh from the glutes just slightly. Feel as if you have even distribution of weight on the sits bones. You can rock from side to side to help you gauge whether you're balanced. And then you can also use your pelvic bowl, roll it forward and back. See if you're balanced forward and back as well. We just want to sort of sit inside our pelvic bowl with our spine, not pitched forward, but sitting perpendicular to the mat. And then you can just relax the legs. They don't have to be flexed with intention, but just relaxing them. They should sort of point towards the ceiling. Let's take the next inhale. Help your left knee to bend, slowly leaning back. We're going to bend and externally rotate, drawing the inner, the sole of the left foot onto the inner right leg. So here, we may be high, lifted with our knee. We may be really open in the hips and the knee naturally falls closer towards the mat. If you're somewhere in between and would like some support, that really helps with tight knees, tight hips. And the tighter your hip or knee area, the higher it'll be. So one of the things we can do to modify that is just give your knee some support. Sometimes our body is just needing a little bit of assurance that it's not overextending, and then it'll relax some. Another thing might be maybe the position of the sole of that left foot is more in line with the calf than it is the inner thigh. Again, you can just see what feels comfortable to you. What we're trying to do is just feel an opening in this left hip while trying to stay supported and stable with the rest of the body. And giving yourself, once you find that edge where you're comfortable, where you can breathe comfortably without holding the breath, gritting the teeth, just to breathe like your ocean breath. Take another breath. Take another exhale. And we can gently guide the left knee up, back towards our staff position. You can lift up on this left sits bone and start to guide the leg long back onto the mat and tapping it out gently. Let's go ahead, reset the staff position. See again if you are evenly distributing your weight on the sits bones. And we'll go ahead and start with the right leg bending this time. So inhale, help to bend the right knee, extend it, externally rotate the right hip as we draw the sole of the right foot closer to the left inner leg, and find your spot. give yourself about 3-5 breath cycles just to see where you land. If you've gone in a little too deeply, you can tell because your breath will catch. See if that's just a natural overriding of your protective reflex that needs to occur before you can release. Or maybe you just went a little too far and you have to just come back out and go back in with less intensity. See if the sole of the foot belongs closer towards the calf than the inner thigh of the left leg. And it may be higher lifted, maybe it's lower lifted, maybe it's the same, but determine that. And once you've found that spot, relaxing 2 to 3 more breath cycles. Hopefully with each inhale, you're finding the energy expanding through the body. And with the exhale, if it finds any tension, achiness, that it just melts and leaves with the exhale. All right, and coming back to our staff position, we're going to gently guide this right knee upwards, removing any props. And then internally rotated, we're now able to safely extend through the right leg, tapping out that right knee, bringing our alignment, our balance back into the hips, the sits bones, tapping out the knees if you need, the legs, flexing the feet, pointing the toes, and just wiggling them is a nice kind of counter stretch. Now our next pose will be a seated butterfly. So we kind of did a half butterfly with this last pose. We're now going to go into a full butterfly upright. So inhaling, we start to bend one knee, and notice I'm leaning back slightly because we just may need that extra space. So bringing our soles of the feet to meet, we might have more of a diamond shape with our legs. If your hips are nice and open, your knees are open, we may have more of a butterfly shape, a more narrow shape with the heels closer towards the groin. We might have that. So wherever you are, we're just giving ourselves the first 3 to 5 breath cycles to find that spot. And we don't want to hurt ourselves in this very, very deep hip opener. So move incrementally, move slowly, and notice how the body responds. Finding that edge. You don't need to go any deeper than is comfortable. And from there, we give ourselves 3 to 5 breath cycles. You can relax the upper shoulders. You can just sink forward and let the head rest and the shoulders soften. Decide if it feels good to have the hands, palms faced up, or somewhere supported in the lap. And return to your ocean breath. You may find with each exhale, the legs, the hips, the glutes, anywhere tight before might slowly let go of that tightness. All right. After your last breath, inhaling and exhaling, we're going to come out of the seated butterfly. Inhaling, start to walk the hands towards the hips so you can lengthen through the torso, Get nice and long in your chest. Lean back if you need. And we're going to start to bring the knees toward each other. You may need to have the hands help guide the internal rotation of the hips, and then extend long, moving aside any props. And you know, when you're in a butterfly, there's not much space in the hips to move, so you're kind of fragile. Give yourself a little bit of time, move slowly to come back into a seated position. See how that feels there. And then we're going to be rolling onto our belly for a locust pose. So we've been sitting with our hips flexed for so long, it should be feeling pretty nice. So you can, as you just saw me do, roll over onto one side, onto a forearm usually, and then both forearms, and onto the belly, and really enjoy how the belly feels on the mat for the first time. If you've been sitting for a long time, if you have those natural folds at the hips, sometimes laying on the belly can be a very fragile feeling as well. You're giving yourself some time to open up at the hips. We don't want our knees, hopefully our kneecaps, to feel pressure too much. So see if you need to lengthen through the legs, lifting up that knee and feeling the support really felt at the thighs, the tops of the ankles. And your neck, you can turn your gaze to one side. Definitely press into the chest gently so you can slowly lift the neck and turn to the other side so you can balance out the neck turns. And keeping the arms at the side or pillowing the back of the hands underneath the brow line. Whichever position works for you when you first come down to the belly. And then we'll go ahead and bring the face towards the mat, bringing the hands back down to about the shoulders. The fingertips are going to move up, and then having the chest and the elbows at about the same level. You can extend through the arms, keeping the nose and the chin. I know it's kind of smushed. You know, you're using your chest as well to help keep your face, hopefully not pressing too deeply. But if this is good, okay for you, you can keep your arms out at a T. If it's too much on the shoulders, you can always bring the palms of the hands down lower. Maybe it's not a 90-degree angle to the body, but maybe a 45, maybe a 15, whatever your shoulder is feeling good, keeping the palms downward. We're going to go ahead and inhale, lengthen through one leg. I'm going to lengthen through the left leg, keeping contact with the mat. And when you extend through the left leg, the top of the ankle should really be resting on the mat, while the knee cap may just slightly lift. Not hyperextending the knee, but it should just gently lift. You have the hip, the top of the ankle, top of the foot, and your glute on the left side should be engaged. And that way you have an entirely activated leg from the hip all the way down to the toes. Go ahead and relax that leg. Turn the gaze if you need. If your face is smushed, you may feel some release at this point by turning the gaze. We'll go ahead and inhale, bring the face back towards the mat. And we're going to lengthen now towards the right side of the body. So using the right leg, go ahead and inhale long while you're still maintaining contact with the right leg. Top of the right leg is still there. Kneecap may be lifted, but the top of the right ankle, the thigh, maybe even the hip bone is active, is in contact with the mat, and the leg, that side, is just active from the hip all the way down to the right toes. Go ahead and release. Let that nice and long. Turn the gaze to the opposite side. Okay, one last time. We're going to press into our chest, bring the face back towards the mat, bringing extension to the arms and the legs now, lengthening them while we're still in contact with the mat. Go ahead and lengthen. We're in our locust pose. Engage the core. If you want to go a little more, you might just see if you can extend and lift the hands and feet just slightly. You might just curl the toes up. You might curl the fingers up and then release. We'll go ahead and bring the palms back towards the shoulders, walking the fingers up. Arms extend over if you can. And then nice stretch. You can bring the hands underneath the shoulders and bring one arm out and either pivot your way back onto the mat or come onto your knees with a reverse sit up from the knees if you need. But we're going to come onto our back, finding our way onto the back next. And we'll be using our last pose in butterfly. But in our supine butterfly, we're going to move there from bridge. If you know you like support under the back or the neck, bring that into your mat position now. I know the back of my sacrum really benefits from that extra cushion. And sometimes if your neck needs that support as well, if you don't like to have it lifted, having the blanket up there as well. But we're meeting in our base bridge position for our supine butterfly. And hopefully our blocks are nearby. We need those as well. So you have two ways of allowing your hips to open while you're on your back and keeping the blocks near the knee area, because we'll be coming into the soles of the feet, just touching, feeling how that translates in our hips. Is it doable? Well, then we can always adjust if it's not. And again, we might have the the heels closer towards the groin or a little further out, but not too far. Just enough to hopefully get somewhat of the edges of your feet touching, maybe even the soles of the feet. But if that's not comfortable for the outer edges of your ankles or your calves, you can always bring more of the soles of the feet just flat on the mat together. But in our supine butterfly, it's always feeling better to have the soles of the feet meet and just dropping them open. So here we are. We found hopefully that comfortable spot for our feet. And then we'll have our blocks to help support the opening as we allow the knees to just fall to their natural edge. My hips are so tight and knees so tight that I don't even open wide enough to support the knees against the blocks. So you may not need your blocks. But if you have that opening that's wider than the hips, you may need the blocks to help you in that wider position. See what works for you. And for some of us, we just might like no blocks near us and just gravity helping us to open. But eventually what happens is our body just opens in its natural state. Doesn't go any further. But if you want to make sure it doesn't, you can always stack those blocks right there once you've found the edge. And from here we breathe 5 breath cycles, closing the eyes, bringing the palms to face upward as we extend the arms out to the side, and recall the ocean breath. If at any time it feels a little too much, you can always lift the knees and just be in a base bridge position if that helps. Let the belly be soft. And as you approach your very last breath cycles, you can come out of this, but not too far. We're just headed into Shavasana. So you can guide the knees, the thighs back to center. Start to bring the soles of the feet flat onto the mat. Remove any blocks and extend one leg at a time. Notice where that first leg's calf and how the hip and knee feels. If it's tented, it's still stiff, and it may be that you just need to give yourself some time. If your knee is really tented upwards, you may just need to have a little support at the back, the lower back. Hopefully you have that rolled blanket, or you can always roll to your fetal position and bring the rolled blanket underneath the small of your back. I'm going to just flatten out my blanket. And as you prepare for Shavasana, laying flat on the back with either support under the lumbar, or neck, or wherever else it feels good to you, we're just allowing our body to respond to today's practice, allowing the feet to roll away from each other, nice and long. They can be either pointing towards the corners of the mat, or they could just be straight underneath the hip bones, nice and long. Palms are facing up. And when you hear the 3 bells, we'll awaken. bringing the mind back to the body. Take note of sounds outside the room. Sounds within the room. And finally, back to the breath. Notice how the chest lifts with each inhale and how the belly falls with each exhale. And as you begin to connect to the body, you can wiggle your toes, fingers, rocking the body, making any movement to help bring the spirit and mind back into the body vessel. We'll meet in an upright seated position of your choice, easy seated, one leg out in front of the other, or a staff position. And we'll end class with today's class with our alternate nostril breathing exercise. The Nadi Shodhana exercise is a breath exercise designed to rebalance the left and right hemispheres of the body, from the breathing, circulation, to even the mind. So hopefully you'll feel a little balanced, a little more balanced. Let's go ahead and sit all the way upright and bringing our left hand into a chin mudra. That's just the index and thumb touching, bringing that hand to rest on the left thigh. Right hand into a Vishnu mudra. It's just the two fingers on the mount of the thumb. You can also just rest the two fingers on the brow if it's too difficult to rest it this way. We'll be closing the right nostril with the right thumb, left nostril with the right ring finger or knuckle, depending on your position. So giving ourselves a nice deep inhale. Let's go ahead and close the right nostril. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale to the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale to the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Last round. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Release the right hand. Release the mudras. Let the body return to its natural state and the breath. And we'll go ahead, bringing the hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining me here at the ACC's Community Room for 2 p.m. Gentle Yoga. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much, Jeani.
Namaste, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you. Thanks.
Bye. Don't forget that water.